Good morning, everybody. It's Adam the Bull, and I am back. Yes, if you didn't see it, go back and watch it. I literally threw up on the air. Not figuratively, not off camera. I vomited on the air. What a way to start the podcast. If you missed Monday's Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, that's what you missed. I left halfway. I was feeling very ill. I believe I had a massive migraine. I was still feeling a little out of it yesterday. Slept a lot the last 2 days, and this morning I'm feeling much better, so I'm ready to go. So I'll be back on the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show if you're watching this before 11 a.m. on Wednesday, September the 14th. I'll be back on the show today, and here we go with another podcast today. A lot to get to on the show. We looking ahead to the Browns and Jets in week number 2. Plus, the Guardians continue to play excellent baseball and have increased their lead in the American League Central with just 3 weeks to go in the regular season. Things looking good, but not over yet. That all coming up right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Podcast is not for the faint of heart.
And I do think it's time for the Browns to move on.
It's not for those who ride the fence.
He's proven nothing.
But if you're looking for someone who tells it like it is about Cleveland sports,
everybody does fandom their way.
You've come to the right place.
I don't think he's any good.
It's time for the Bullpen with Adam the Bull.
Yes, I am back. I got a little Cleveland Clothing Company shirt, my old school CLE shirts here. There you go, CLE. And speaking of Cleveland Clothing Company shirts, try saying that 3 times fast or 5 times fast or however many times fast you want to say it. We've got the now Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show shirts, the one with our logo and then the one with all our faces. So I'm excited about those, and hopefully you're excited about them as well. I know a lot of people have ordered them already. Keep it coming. Okay, let's get right to it. I got plenty to say about the Guardians. I'll get to that shortly, but I do want to begin with the Browns, who, as of this morning, are a 6-point favorite for the home opener against the Jets. Now, before we get to the game, I've been saying for years that we as a fan base, we as a community, and I don't mean the town you live in, or just as a larger community. All right, what am I getting here? So what we're getting as a larger community is that we always are uptight about what people say about us. Sorry, I don't know if you folks heard that, but something on my computer was playing a commercial, and I don't know if you guys were hearing it. So you probably said, what did he get distracted by there? That was what it was. I was trying to figure out what browser to shut off. So we often get bothered by what the national media says. And listen, I get fired up about something sometimes, and I'll react if something's unfair. But at this point, if people are saying things about Watson, and most of the stuff being said is fair, a lot of it is. If people are saying, Jacoby Brissett's not very good, the Browns are not going to be good, you can't worry about this. And the latest is the elf on the field. We all saw that the Browns announced yesterday, and I'm sure most of you, if not all of you, saw the video footage of the Brownie Elf on the field at Brown Stadium. I'm not calling it by its corporate name anymore, but we all saw it yesterday, and I think a lot of people here were excited. Now, if you don't think, I like it, I think it's cool looking. If you don't like it, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. And you want to debate amongst your friends whether it's good or not, whether it's tough looking or not. I don't know. I got one right here. See? I got the Brownie Elf right here. I'll pick it up a little bit so you can see the top. How about that? All right. So there you go. So I like the Brownie Elf. I think it's cool. That's why I have it on my wall here. But nationally, people don't get it. They don't know, that this is something that people has been associated with the Browns. They haven't really used it, obviously, officially, but everybody here knows about the Brownie Elf. People from out of town, if they want to make fun of, who cares? Who cares? Don't start arguing, folks. You can't start arguing. You look bad when if you start arguing with fans from other towns about the Brownie Elf, or don't try to and defending Watson. Listen, just be a hypocrite about it, just like every other fan base. Well, to me, Watson's a bad guy, but I'm fine with him being on the football team. That's how I see it. I think that's how everybody should see it. Okay, you do what you want. You do you. But specifically about the Brownie the Elf, I think it's cool. Who cares what other people think about it? If you don't think it's cool, that's fine with, whatever. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, but I'm not going to argue with somebody about it. We all like what we like. We don't like what we don't like. I think it looks really cool. I think it looks good for the Browns, and I'm excited to see it on the field on Sunday when they play the Jets. Now, getting to the more important things. The specific game against the Jets. Now, the Jets are not a very good football team. But neither are the Carolina Panthers, and the Browns, ultimately let them get back in the game. Now, you could, why am I saying like? Baker Mayfield is, at this point in his career, is obviously a better quarterback than Joe Flacco. However, Joe Flacco is a seasoned veteran. I know a lot of it was at the end of the game, but he wasn't terrible last week against the Ravens. He put up some big yardage. Again, a lot of it late in the game when the Ravens had it kind of in control, but you could say the same thing about what Baker did against the Panthers, or Baker did against the Browns. A lot of it, Browns were in control. They kind of let it get away. Now the Ravens were in more control than the Browns were. But I think something you have to realize is, first of all, in the NFL, there are not a lot of blowouts. Most games, this is not college football. Most games in the NFL are close. Most games in the NFL are decided by single digits. Number two, the Browns don't have a very good quarterback. I don't want excuses for Jacoby Brissett. I'm not here to, Jacoby is exactly what I've been saying and most people have been saying all along. If you want to con yourself into believing that Jacoby Brissett can be a really good quarterback, that's on you. He's not. He is a bottom-tier starter. He's really a backup quarterback. He is not a starting quarterback, and that's what you have to deal with. So the fact is, most NFL games are close, and Jacoby Brissett's not a very good quarterback. So what does that mean? That sounds like bad news. Well, it's not all bad news because the rest of the roster, as we saw, is very strong. The Browns have a very good defense. I thought they did coming into the season. They showed it for 3.5 quarters last week. The Browns have an excellent running game. They've shown it for years, and they showed it again last week. If they stay with their strengths, they should beat teams like the Jets and other bad teams, and hopefully can stay competitive with the good teams and pull out a couple of wins to get them to 5, hopefully 6, really hopefully 7 wins with Jacoby Brissett. Now, that's not going to be easy. Again, get it through your head. Jacoby Brissett is not a very good quarterback. He's never been. He never will be. Doesn't mean he won't ever have a good game and put up big numbers, maybe this week against the Jets, who I don't think are particularly good defensively, although I'm not going to completely judge them based on one game. A lot of that's based on what we saw last year, although they're one of their first-round picks, Sauce Gardner, defensive back, he graded out very well last week in the game against Baltimore, so that is one challenge there. But overall, top to bottom, the Jets are not a great team. So I do expect the Browns to win. I'm still deciding whether I think they're going to cover because I do think the Browns are going to play a lot of close games and have us sweating out a lot of these games late. Even against teams that aren't very good, because that's just the kind of style they're going to play. When you're going to be a run team that relies on your running game and your defense, you're not going to win by blowout very often. It's just not going to happen because it doesn't happen, period, in the NFL. We all know that that's the situation, right? Maybe they'll have a blowout or two, possible, but I don't expect that. I'm not going to go into any game, even the Jets, who's probably the worst team on their schedule, at home opener, crowd is going to be nuts, fired up, wild. I still don't expect a blowout, but I do expect the Browns to win. I'm leaning towards the cover, but I'm not ready to make the pick on that yet. So when you look at the matchup with the Jets, what's interesting about the Jets is they've got some very nice talent at the skill positions on offense. But at least to this point, I don't think they have anybody that is a superstar. They've got a lot of good players. Now, some of these players are very young, so it's not really fair to say, well, this guy's not a superstar. But when he may be, I'm not saying that they won't ever have guys that are superstars. Obviously, they might down the line. Their other first-round pick, Garrett Wilson, of course, we all know well from his time with the Buckeyes, has a chance to be a really good player. Breece Hall, the running back who they drafted in the second round, maybe the most talented running back out of the 2022 draft, he also has a chance to be a really good talent. But right now, those guys are not superstars. They're rookies. They're unproven. And neither did all that much in their first game. They both contributed. They both did a nice job. And the Jets have other good players on offense. Michael Carter, who's their starting running back, who was a rookie last year, had a good season, had a good first game, and a decent season as a rookie. Elijah Moore, their second-round pick last year at wide receiver, nice player, contributed week one. The veteran wide receiver, Corey Davis, former first-round pick, had a good last year with the Titans, was decent last year with the Jets. He had a good game. So they do, and their tight end, we know C.J. Uzama. We know him well from his time in Cincinnati. Tyler Conklin, who they got from Minnesota, he contributed last week. Braxton Berrios. So they got a number of nice players on offense. They're a deep group. I would say both at wide receiver, not both, all three, wide receiver, running back, and tight end. I think the Jets are a deep group, but they lack star power to this point. Again, they have nobody who's elite. They have a lot of players who are good, solid players. Nobody that's elite at that moment. Another problem for so skill position wise, hey, they're good. They're good, solid teams. But that's about it. Their defense, top to bottom, in my opinion, is poor and will continue to be poor. Their offensive line is terrible, and that's going to be a major problem for them. I expect Myles Garrett and the Browns to take big-time advantage of that. And ultimately, Joe Flacco, who did not play a terrible game last week, is not a good quarterback. Even at his best, he was, in my opinion, above average. And at this point, he's well below that. I would expect him to not have a good game. I ultimately do think the Jets will have a tough time scoring in this game, and hopefully the Browns will not take their foot off the gas defensively and have the brain bleeps that they did last week late in the game that led to a couple of big plays. Obviously, the long touchdown to Robbie Anderson, the long run by Baker Mayfield. These things are inexcusable. A defense as talented as the Browns should not allow those things to happen. They did. Hopefully, they clean it up this week. And because, top to bottom, see, it's interesting. The Panthers, like DJ Moore is obviously better than anybody the Jets have. Christian McCaffrey is obviously way better than anybody the Jets have. Baker Mayfield is better than Joe Flacco. But the Jets, in terms of the depth of talent, I think are better than Carolina at the skill positions. But ultimately, the rest of the team is poor, much like with Carolina. In fact, I think the Jets are even worse defensively than Carolina. So it's an opportunity. When we were on the show Monday, I was kind of getting sick, and I argued about it a little bit. And Jay brought up the point, and Tim brought up the point, hey, you can't just run it all the time against everybody. Well, all I know is that 80% of the games that Nick Chubb has played, when he's gotten 15 or more carries, he's had 80 or more yards. So we could bring up a couple of games where he's been shut down. There have been a few. Even the best running backs have bad games here and there. I don't believe any team can consistently shut down Nick Chubb, even if they have 8-9 in the box, and certainly not a team like the Jets that don't have the talent. When you start playing some teams that are better defensively, okay, there may be some games where he can't have a huge game. But the Browns have to stick with the running game, even if it's not going well. And I know fans will, we all want them to run. And as soon as they have 8 carries for 12 yards, we're going to be like, throw the ball. No, that's not how this team wins. Obviously, you got to keep them honest by throwing the ball. But I think this team has to remain committed to the running game, even when it's not working. And that's not going to happen often. But when it does, against good teams, they've got to stick with it. They cannot give up the running game at any point because they won't win that way. Okay, I want to talk to you about Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today. With the NFL season underway, Sleeper is climbing the charts with over 4 million plus users. In addition, they recently launched 22 features, including over-unders integrated into fantasy, the first sports contest game built into the fantasy experience. Now, not only can you enter a contest via over-under itself, but you can also do so through your league's matchup screen. It's super simple. First, in any sport, choose 2 or more players that you like and pick the over-under. For example, rushing yards in football, number of points in hoops. Then choose the amount of money you want to enter into the contest. If you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 to 20 times the money you put in. The main reason I'm excited about the over-under on Sleeper is that it's the only app where I can join my friends' contests and play together. It's got a built-in group chat where, let's face it, we can talk some trash. So stop what you're doing and download Sleeper right now to play the over-under game. Have fun with your friends and make some cash on your mobile phone. Join our listener group on Sleeper at sleeper.com/lockedonbets or sleeper.com/lockedontoday, and Sleeper will automatically match your first deposit of up to $100. Again, go to the promo code sleeper.com/lockedonbets, sleeper.com/lockedontoday, $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. All right, I want to switch gears. Let's talk some baseball. The Guardians, when everybody was panicking a week ago, everybody was up in arms. I said, chill out. Did I not? Did I not tell you that this was this team, that they had their peaks and their valleys? And it won't be the last one. Hopefully they'll get one more valley out before the season. It's weird to say that. I mean, hopefully they don't have any more valleys this year. But you have to expect if it happens. The Guardians, who had really struggled, right, starting with that Mariners series on the road a couple of weeks ago, they had lost, 8 of 10. Well, since then, since losing the 8 of 10, they've now won 5 in a row and 7 of their last 8. The bats have come alive a little bit, not a ton yesterday, but they've, done enough. And they've scored at least 4, in this stretch where they've won 7 of 8, they've scored at least 4 runs in 6 of the 8 games. And if the Guardians score 4 runs, they're going to win quite often. So, the White Sox and Twins both got victories yesterday, so here's where it stands. Guardians lead the White Sox by 3. They lead the Twins by 5. Big series coming up this weekend. The Guardians could put the Twins basically out of it if they take care of business in this upcoming 5-game series with the Twins. They have one more with the Angels today, obviously this afternoon. Cal Quantrill and Patrick Sandoval for the Angels, who's been a decent pitcher for them. Then the White Sox come in for the makeup game tomorrow afternoon. Tristan McKenzie and Giolito. That's a great pitching matchup there. And then Bieber will be on the hill for the first game of the 5-game series versus the Twins. This will be a challenge for the pitching staff with obviously Plesac and Savali still out. You got 5 games against the Twins in 4 days on a wraparound weekend, including a doubleheader Saturday. I don't know. I assume Connor Pilkington's going to pitch one of the games on doubleheader. I don't know who's going to pitch the other. Obviously, the bullpen's getting a lot of use right now because you really only have 3 legitimate starters. Morris, who's come off the injured list, pitched yesterday. He held him in the game, Cody Morris, but he's missed the whole season until a couple weeks ago. So, he can't go deep in the game. So this weekend will be a challenge for the bullpen. Obviously, of late, Clase and Karinchak have gotten the job, continued to get the job done, but they've been a little more vulnerable lately. They both allowed some base runners, and hopefully they can kind of tighten up, but they're getting a lot of use. So I would think Clase gets the day off today. Hopefully the Guardians can win this game big because Clase and Karinchak could both use a day off, and the team does not have a day off until Monday, September 26th. So you got, and in fact, they're playing between now and next Sunday, the 25th. You're playing, every day, and you have a doubleheader. So heading into the 6 game, you're playing after today. You play 9 games in a row against the White Sox and Twins, which will basically decide the division. I think Clase has to have the day off today. I think he's pitched 4 of the last 5 games. And in a perfect world, they can give both Karinchak and Clase the day off. These guys are a little worn. We've seen a little wear and tear here. And, with the big stretch coming up against the Twins and White Sox, they got to be at least a little fresh. Perfect world, the Guardians have 2 blowouts the next 2 days. And maybe Quantrill and McKenzie can go really deep into the games. Bieber, too. You got your 3 best guys going the next 3 days. They need these guys to go deep into these games. The bullpen needs a rest, especially the back end. So hopefully against the Angels before starting the 9 in a row, 1 with the White Sox, 5 with the Twins, and then 4 more, and then 3 more with the White Sox. Hopefully, you can get the bullpen a rest day because both guys could use the day off today. But this is it. I mean, the Guardians are obviously in great position to win the division. They're 10 games over 500, back to what I believe is a season high. Right? I don't think they've been able to get over. Did they get to 11 over once? I'm trying to remember. 60 and 50. No, I don't think they were ever 11 over. I think they're back at the season high of 10 over. Hopefully, they can get to 11 over for the first time today. If they can take care of business this afternoon. Couple of things that you like to see. Kirk McCarty is a guy who's just come up somewhat recently, and we hadn't thought much about him, but give him credit. He did a really good job yesterday after Morris got knocked out of the game early. He went 3 1/3, just allowed one base runner and no runs, stabilized those middle innings against the Angels, and then Karinchak and Clase got shut the door. But those are some big innings. So good job by McCarty there in the second game of the series. And, that's something they're going to need to do. They're going to have to get some innings from guys they don't totally trust. De Los Santos, and hopefully Morgan can, Eli Morgan, who's great early in the season, had a pretty good inning on, my days are all a blur. Monday, I think it was, against the Angels. He pitched a pretty good inning. But they're going to need it. The bullpen is taxed big time because they have two guys right now that are, not going. If you get 5 innings right now from Morris and Pilkington, you're happy at this point. So you've used your best relievers a lot. You're going to need some other guys to step up and get it done. That's the challenge of September. That's why it's so hard to make the playoffs in baseball. Even now, when 6 teams make it, it's still hard. It's still the hardest sport to make the playoffs. The least percentage of teams that make it. It is a grind. They play every day, and guys get tired. And you've seen it. If you've watched, don't get me wrong, I still trust Clase as much as any closer in baseball. But if you've watched him, not just seen the box score, but if you've watched Karinchak and Clase lately, they haven't been quite as sharp. And it's because they've been worked a lot. So they could both use a breather. But in the end, you're fighting to make the playoffs. Every game matters. I would think Clase won't pitch today, but you never know for sure. I mean, you don't want to give up this game. It's a bad Angels team. You want to sweep them, take care of business before the big 9-game stretch against the 2 teams you're competing with in the division. So I'll be interested to see how Francona uses his bullpen. Hopefully it won't matter. I'd like to see Cal Quantrill go out there and pitch a complete game shutout. That would be pretty sweet. But that's not very likely realistic. When you look at the standings, the division winner in the Central is obviously going to be the 3 seed. The Guardians are, 10 and a half games back of the Yankees, so they're certainly not catching the Yankees. Mariners, the Astros are even better. So right now, the 3 wild card teams, Toronto, Tampa Bay, and Seattle. It looks like that's going to be it. I mean, I think really the only question is what order, because right now the team that's on the outside looking in is the Orioles at 5 games out. I can't imagine they're catching it. So besides the Central, what order are the Blue Jays, Rays, and Mariners going to end up? I don't think the Blue Jays or Rays will ultimately catch the Yankees. The Yankees had a massive lead in the Central. They had played terribly for much of the time after the All-Star break. They've played better lately. Won 3 in a row in 7 of 10. They're up 6 on the Blue Jays and 6.5 on the Rays. But I do think the 6 teams in the playoffs right now are going to the playoffs. I do think the Guardians are going to win the division. I do think they're the best team in the division. The Twins have really played terrible baseball. And hopefully the Guardians can put the Twins out of their misery. The White Sox do have me concerned. It was so funny. Because for 4 months, I kept saying, the White Sox are going to make a run. The White Sox are going to make a run. The White Sox are going to make a run. And then 3 weeks ago, I said, nah, it's not going to happen. They're finished. And they've played really well since then. Ultimately, I think the Guardians will do enough to win because the White Sox haven't been consistent enough. The White Sox roster is good. Their pitching staff is really good. And so I am a little concerned about them down the stretch, the way they've played. Those 4 games, the 1 tomorrow at home and then the 3 in Chicago next week. At this point, I'd take a split with those 4 games with the White Sox and just have them do their business against everybody else. If they could survive the next 10 days, actually, it's less than that, right? It's more than that. But if they could survive the next 10 games, starting with today against the Angels and then obviously the 9 that we've talked about, Twins and White Sox, and if they're still in first after that, then they're in great shape. Guardians have 22 games left on the season. And after these 10, the rest of the schedule, you got Texas after the White Sox, 3 on the road in Texas, And then they end the season with 9 home games, 3 with Tampa, which will be a challenge. Certainly they're a playoff team. And then 6 with Kansas City. How that ended up happening, a 6-game series at home against Kansas City to end I have no idea what the schedule makers did there, but that was a huge advantage. To end the season with 6 straight home games against the Royals is insane and a huge advantage. So if the Guardians are still in first after that second series with the White Sox, they should win the division. Again, you got 9 of your final 12 at home and 9 of your final 12 against bad teams. The only challenge, Tampa Bay's a good team, and they'll still be battling for playoff position in theory. And Texas is not, is not a terrible team. They have played, okay baseball at times, but they're not as bad as the Royals. Is all I'm saying. They are pretty bad. They're just not as bad as the Royals. They probably should have a better record considering their run differential. But their pitching is bad. But they got a good lineup. But anyway, I do think, again, if they're in first place at the end of all these Twins and White Sox games, I think the Guardians are in a great position to win their division. All right, take another break. When I come back, some final thoughts on the Guardians, on the Browns, and even the Cavaliers. Coming up to wrap things up in this edition of The Bullpen with Adam the Bull. A little water break. Okay. So, one last thing on the Guardians I wanted to mention. And you folks will have fun with this. For those who know how hard I've been on Miles Straw, I actually picked up Miles Straw in my fantasy baseball league. I haven't started him. Well, I started him actually on Monday because we change our lineups every day. And on Monday, I only had like 10. We start 12 hitters every day, and I have like 18 hitters on my roster. And on Monday, the bunch of guys had a day off, so I actually put him in my lineup. And the reason I picked him up only is because at this point I'm battling for third place. Top 6 people win cashola. I'm in like a battle with 2 other guys for third, fourth, and fifth. And I can make up some points in stolen bases, and that's the one category he can help you from a fantasy perspective. So I figured on like Mondays and Thursdays where some other teams are not playing, maybe I'll throw him in there and get me a stolen base or 2. I just thought people would find that funny since I've crushed him so much, and he's not a very good hitter. But anyway, kudos to Oscar Gonzalez. This guy has had a magnificent season. We've talked a lot about Stephen Kwan, and obviously Oscar Gonzalez hasn't played all season like Stephen Kwan has, but he's really not let up. I mean, he came up, he got hot, he cooled off for a little bit, but he has readjusted. 32 extra base hits in 69 games. I mean, he's put up some impressive numbers. He looks to be, right now you feel like, okay, this guy can be a legitimate part of the future of this team. In this offseason, the Guardians have to figure it out at center field and catcher. They've got to upgrade there. I know they love Hedges with the pitchers. I get it. They got to try to get that. You can't have 2, empty spots in your lineup. It's been a huge problem. And really 3. I mean, Kwan, Rosario, Ramirez, Gonzalez, Naylor, Jimenez, those 6 guys. Am I forgetting anybody? Well, I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Kwan, Rosario, Ramirez, Gonzalez, Naylor, Jimenez. Yeah, I mean, those 6 guys, we're good with. Like, I think those guys are going to be starters. I'm okay there. Kwan obviously is going to be top 5 for Rookie of the Year. Jimenez, who's struggled lately, but overall has had a magnificent season. Rosario's been real good. Now, they've got some young infielders, so maybe they'll move on from Rosario. I don't know. But you got 6 spots in the lineup you feel good about. You got 3 spots in the rotation you feel good about. The bullpen you feel good about. The Guardians have to address some of these things in the offseason. They need to upgrade a catcher. They need to get a bat. I think they need another slugger in the lineup. They thought it was going to be Franmil Reyes. Turned out it wasn't. They need a guy who can hit some home runs. Not every player has to be great at getting on base. You like to have a lot of guys like that. They do. Give me a slugger. I think you need one slugger in this lineup. Get a little better offensively at catcher, and keep Maley as your backup, or keep Hedges as your backup. I don't know, but I get what they bring defensively. That is important, but they've got to get better at the position. And they need to, whether it's through the rotation. Daniel Espino, I don't know if he's going to be ready to go next year. He's their top pitching prospect. But they're definitely, I think at this point, Plesac and Savali, I don't think I'm ever going to be ready to trust those guys. Let's see. Daniel Espino, has not pitched a lot this year, obviously. But so we'll see where he is for next year. He's still a very young guy. I mean, how old is Daniel Espino? He is 21. So he'll be 22 next season. I don't know that he's going to be ready to go next year. He's got great stuff. Huge strikeout to innings ratio. I mean, it's pretty, Ks per nine is pretty impressive. Donovan Mitchell speaking today in a press conference to introduce himself to the Cavalier fans, the Cavalier media. I think we're all very excited. Training camp's coming up. I mean, the NBA season starts in like 4 or 5 weeks. It seems crazy because we just started football. And obviously on tomorrow's podcast and today's Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, I'll have a lot more to say about the Browns against the Jets. We'll dive more into it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, as always, at Adam the Bull. Check me out on Cameo. Check out the website, adamthebull.com. And make sure you're watching the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Make sure you subscribe to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. Let's go. Got to get to 14,000 subscriptions by the end of the week. I want to get there. We're about 250 away, so let's get to 14,000 by the end of the week. Let's get it done. Come on. Tell your friends. Tell everybody, your family, your cousins, your grandma, everybody. Subscribe. It's also where you find the podcast. And check out my boys G. Bush and Jason Lloyd, or not Jason Lloyd, but Jeff Lloyd in the Locked On Browns podcast as well. Subscribe to them also. I'll talk to you tomorrow right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull. See ya.